Welcome to episode 42, Construction Nation. This is Sue Dyer, your host of Construction Dream Team, where I interview industry leaders and experts so you can learn about the people side of construction and build your construction dream team based on OPE, other people's experiences. Why suffer through when you could learn how to do it better, smarter, and faster by listening to those people who've already been there and done that? And I hope that you will head on over to iTunes and give Construction Dream Team a 5-star rating. This does help get us higher into the search engines so more of Construction Nation can find us. So thanks so much, everybody, for listening. And so we're going to dive in today. I'm very excited to have our guest today. We have a wonderful guest who has his own podcast. So hopefully everyone will jump on over there and he can tell us more about that. And you can listen because I think it's so important to learn from all sorts of different types of experts. And our guest today is an expert in the legal realm. And so some people say, well, legal realm, Sue, what's that about here on Construction Dream Team? That doesn't sound like a dream. But you know, sometimes you have to know how to select the right lawyer when you need one. And that's really what Alex is going to help us. So Alex Barthet is here. He is the principal at Barthet Group in Biscayne, Florida. And so most of his work is in that area, but his expertise is universal. So let's dive in and listen to what Alex has to share with us today. So welcome to Construction Dream Team, Alex.
Thanks, Sue. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, you know, how did you become a lawyer? What was the journey to that? And I know you love it. So I'm always intrigued when people really love their profession. So tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming a legal expert.
It was a rather circuitous route. I started engineering. I went to Rensselaer Polytechnic, RPI, up in upstate New York. I wanted to be a mechanical engineer, so that's what I studied. I thought I was going to be either involved in construction as an engineer or maybe design cars. And then as I got towards the end of my degree, I decided, you know, I don't really want to do this anymore. And my father at that point was leaving the law firm that he was at. And I said to my father, well, what do you think about me being a lawyer? And he said, well, if that's what you want to do. And I knew I didn't want to be an engineer at that point. So I went to law school. I worked full time as I went to law school and worked with my father at this current firm. And we did a little bit of construction, not a lot. That was 24, 25 years ago. But it was always a growth area. There's always, in South Florida specifically, there's a lot of construction. We are a boom and bust city when it comes to construction. So it kind of all came together for me. My father being a lawyer, us doing some construction, my engineering background. And I'm a lucky guy. It's all worked out great.
That's so interesting. So you probably have a succession story too for us on how to make a successful succession. Professional.
Well, I'm lucky in that my father and I get along great. I know there are a lot of family businesses that have a dynamic that's much more challenging. I would say we didn't really have any of that. And to top it all off, I met my wife here. My wife is the bookkeeper. So we've been married for 20 years, but I met her here at the office. And her sister is an assistant here in the office. And she's been with us for almost 18 years. So yeah, I mean, you would think that it's either going to work great or it'd be a train wreck, but we're lucky. It's been good.
Well, it sounds like it was absolutely meant to be. And good thing that you listened to the fact that you were on the wrong path. So many people don't do that. They just, like 20 years later, they look back and go, I never really wanted to do this. And so that's excellent that you were able to do that. So today we're going to talk about how to pick the right construction lawyer. And so I know you're out there and you're working with a lot of folks. What do you see as the mistakes people make when they select a construction lawyer? Like you have something where you really need help. what should we be doing? What are mistakes we make?
So the first mistake I see most people make is that they hire a lawyer based on whoever they know or on price. And the first thing that they should be doing is find someone in the area that is a specialist in the area of practice that they need. So for construction law, they need to find a construction lawyer. In various parts of the country, there are board certifications for specialties. Florida, for example, has, I think, more than 30 specialized fields where you can, if you have the experience and your peers endorse you and you take a test, you can be a board certified specialist. So I and several folks here are board certified construction lawyers. So the first thing you want to do is determine that the lawyer that you are going to hire is in fact a specialist in the area that you need a lawyer in. If you do that, everything else will fall into place. So your list as someone in construction should be made up of only people that are specialists in construction. From there, then you can talk about other experience and price and whether you get along with them and you like their team and you think you can work with them. But that, in my opinion, comes second.
Cool. So I think that's really smart. I mean, most of it think about a construction lawyer, but I bet a lot of smaller construction firms or even maybe the government entities have people who are lawyers that might get assigned, but they may not really be that versed in construction. I do see that quite a bit. And even when there's a claim or something, sometimes the lawyers don't really understand the nature of the beast they're trying to deal with, and makes it very challenging for both sides to try to resolve it.
And you end up paying for the education of something that may not be needed if you can find someone that already has that level of experience.
And even better yet, prevent the issues in the first place.
Ideally.
So how does a construction project leader, like someone I'm leading a project, go about selecting the very best attorney for a specific issue?
So I would suggest that once you've narrowed down the fact that you're going to find someone that is a specialist in the field, that you want to do ideally two things. One, you want to, which is what I did when my oldest daughter started dating, I typed the names of her boyfriend into Google and see what Google shows you, right? Because Google's going to show you the good and the bad, and it's the bad that you want to know about that sometimes is hard to surface. So maybe they have great Google reviews, maybe they don't. Maybe they seem like a great attorney, but you go online and you read reviews. Maybe there's been a bar complaint. Again, not things that you would necessarily know, or you may not have asked, but Google may show you things that you were unaware of. So that would be the first thing I would do after you determine that you've found someone that's got the specialty that you need. And then the next thing is ask a very specific question. Who on the team is going to be working on my contract, my case, my matter, my deal? Because you may have met someone and that may not be the person that's actually going to do the work. And that's not uncommon, but you want to know that up front. So, for example, if we take my firm as an example, right? I have 11 lawyers that work for me. I obviously can't do all the work myself. I do some of it, but not all of it. So whether a client asks me or not, I am very direct with them and introduce them at the first meeting or first phone call to the lawyer or lawyers that are going to handle their case, for which I will oversee, but I'm not going to be doing everything, so that there's no misunderstanding. But if you don't have that, if you just assume that the person you met is the person that's going to work on your case, that may not be the case. And then you become upset because you had an expectation that wasn't fulfilled.
Yeah, I think managing expectations is so critical in everything, and particularly maybe people are stressed because there's some kind of legal matter, usually kind of comes with the territory.
Right.
So I think also I see aligning expectations around fees too. Is there a way you do that? Because I hear that a lot from folks in the industry, like, wow, this cost me a fortune, or, this isn't worth it, or how do you manage that expectation?
That's probably one of the most challenging expectations we have to manage. The second is probably the time. The legal system moves very slow. So, but as far as cost, we are upfront with the clients that we don't have a lot of control over what the other side is going to do. One of the things that I tell clients on a regular basis is that you're in the situation you're in, especially if it's a dispute, because the person on the other side, at least as compared to you, is not reasonable. So the legal system is intended to come to a just result, but I can't make someone become reasonable through the court system. That takes a lot of work. And that means that the other side may do things that don't make a lot of sense, cost you more money. So what we try to do to manage that expectation is we create small interim budgets, right? So I don't know how much this case is going to cost as a whole because there's so many moving parts. But let's talk about what it's going to cost in the next month or two, and what are the things we're going to do in that next month or two, and see where, and then reassess. We, as many construction firms, we just charge hourly for our time. We don't do any work on a contingency. We do some things on a flat fee, but those are smaller matters. So it's always an issue.
Yeah, and time too. I think you're right too, because the likelihood of something happening quickly is not very great. And the likelihood of being postponed several times is also very great. And the likelihood that it'll settle eventually is also very great. So it's it's a kind of a long waiting game, patience. So I think that's one of the important things that a good lawyer also brings to the table, is just helps everyone understand the process, but also be patient and know that it'll work out to the best that you possibly can. Usually patience pays off.
Yes, yes, you have to be very patient with the process and understand that the process is not always in your lawyer's control. So, for example, I was meeting with a client this morning, and we have to get a matter, a discrete issue within a case, set and heard by the court. Well, that's going to take 90 days just to have 30 minutes in front of the judge. I can't get that date any sooner than 90 days. So that means not that nothing is going to happen for 3 months, but until this issue gets resolved, I can't really move the case forward as quickly as I'd like for the client's benefit. And that has nothing to do with me, the other side, the client. It's just that's as quick as the judge is able to see us.
hmm Yeah, there's many things that it's dynamic. No one can predict exactly what's going to happen because it's interactions between many moving parts.
Which is even more of a reason why folks that can embark on or use services like yours to resolve the dispute on their own timetable, and it just makes things move much more quickly. A definitive, less than ideal result that happens today is almost always better off than a potentially better result with a lot of cost, a lot of frustration at some point in the future.
Yeah, we've also see the durability of the agreements. Like, so you can go through a whole court process and the judge may declare something, but trying to collect on that can
Yes.
be rather challenging. Whereas in our processes through partnering or facilitated dispute resolution, the parties pay because they've helped to create the solution and bought into it. So it's just the durability of the agreements is also a benefit that we've seen. But sometimes, parties want their day in court. We see that a lot. We run a same day in mediation program here for 24 years. And, some parties just want to be in front of the judge. They just want that. And sometimes the judge will say, sorry, you got to go with those mediators over there. But a lot of times they just want to be heard because it's an emotional thing for them. And so that's the court has its role, and we need people to represent us in the best way. But I will bet you have some great stories and examples of how you've seen things maybe go wrong, and then how you've seen them go well. Can you share some examples?
Sure. I would tell you that where we find that things, we are not fortune tellers. I can't tell what's going to happen in the future, but having done this now for a long time, experience gives me a good guide at predicting the outcome. And what I usually find are clients that think that they can beat the odds usually have a worse result than those that recognize the experience that they're paying for in a lawyer, like in any experienced lawyer. And then, not that they don't take our advice, but they thank us for our advice and decide to proceed with a case. I agree with you. A mediated settlement of a case is ideal if we can achieve that. As far as some horror stories, I would tell you one that comes to mind is going back to actually the very first question you asked me about using someone that's not a specialist in the area. We had a client come to us who was owed about $350,000. He is an electrician, and he decided to save some money, and he hired a lawyer that was a solo practitioner who kind of did everything. He would do your divorce, he would do your parking tickets, he would do your, if your son got busted and was sent to jail, he would, handle that piece of it. And he was also a construction lawyer. Unfortunately, he didn't understand some of the intricacies and deadlines associated with the claim that our client had. So in Florida and in many states, your lien rights are very time sensitive. And there are things that can happen that can cause you to lose your rights. So we had this client who came to us after his prior lawyer failed to file the necessary paperwork to timely enforce his lien, which resulted in him effectively losing about $350,000, which is not great. Only to make matters worse is that this lawyer was a solo practitioner. He had no insurance, and he surely didn't have $350,000. So there really was very little we could do for the client. But that's because he wanted to save a buck, which cost him a lot. And whether it was me or another seasoned construction lawyer, he would have gotten good advice by seeking out an experienced professional that knew the rules from the outset.
And a claim is a good one, or a lien is a good one, because you have to think about that way before you actually have an issue to save your rights. So you really need advice before you have a problem.
Yes.
Many times. So should people see if you have a construction firm, should people seek out their attorney regularly to get advice, or is there a way to have them kind of look at what's going on with what your contracts you have or what you're trying to do? Should it be part of the strategy of the organization?
So some of our most successful clients have created their own dream team, which typically includes a construction lawyer, a construction insurance agent, not any insurance agent, an insurance agent that specializes in construction, a bonding agent for them to get bonds, and a construction CPA. Again, not any accountant, an accountant that focuses ideally only or primarily on construction. And that's typically the core four that we see, that if clients can put that group together, they will typically be better off. And what I see as far as the clients that, again, have the least problems and seem to be doing the best are ones that routinely engage socially with that group of 4 folks. It doesn't have to be regularly, but they'll occasionally invite me to lunch, maybe once, twice a year. Same with their accountant and their agent, and they just want to keep their ear to the ground. There's things that come up at lunch that or over drinks or at breakfast that give them good guidance. We have one client who is tremendously successful, and every year he has what he calls the state of the company meeting. And he invites the core 4, plus a few others. He is a corporate lawyer, and he's got some other folks that are involved that are key folks to his business. And he invites us all to his office once a year, typically at the end of the year. He tells us how he did. And the reason he does it is he wants to make sure that we all know each other, so that to the extent that I have a legal issue and I need something from his CPA, his instruction to me is, don't wait for me. Don't go through me. I'm going to slow you down. If you need something from anyone else in this room, just pick up the phone, call them, send them an email, because you all have my back. So I know that I can trust you in doing whatever it is you need to do. And I don't want to be the guy slowing you down doing your job.
I think that's really a great advice to everyone. Do you have your core 4? And have that core 4 and build relationships so that you understand the trends of what's happening. I know a lot of times just some of the lawyers I've worked with in construction, they really do see the trends way before they're coming, because they're playing out in court before they've actually come out and everybody knows about it. So they really do understand a lot of what's going on in the industry. So I know that you're a leader in your own industry there in South Florida, and I know you're a leader in the legal practice in construction, and you're leading your team. So what is your magic juice for being a great leader?
That's tough. I listen to many different podcasts. Those that have their own podcast end up listening to lots and lots of podcasts. And the one I listen to routinely is one called How I Built This. I'm sure you know. And, he ends his interviews always asking the same question, do you attribute your success to skill or luck? And, I think about that question all the time as it applies to me. And I think it's a lot to do with luck. I don't know that it has to do with skill. I learned from someone who I think is the best of the best, and that's my father. I was very lucky to have been given an opportunity to work with my dad. And he had a great ability to delegate, which I still find hard after doing this now for many years. Delegation is very challenging. But, I remember as a young lawyer, literally getting sworn in so that I could go to court. He physically hands me like 6 files, and he said, "Okay, these are yours." And I said, I have no idea what to do. And he said, "Well, I guess you're going to figure it out, aren't you?" And I figured it out. So I think learning from my father, who set great examples in the office, working from the bottom up. I started here making coffee and making photocopies, being very humble and appreciative for the opportunities that I had, and showing a lot of gratitude to my team. I it's my name on the door. Many times I'm the one that gets the accolades, but the reality is I do very little to move this ship forward. It's really the 17 other people in my office that do all the hard work and get the least amount of the glory. So I try to make sure that when any accolades come down, that they're the ones that get it, not me.
I think that makes a very nice and very appreciated leader. So tell us about your podcast.
So
why did you start a podcast, and tell us all about it?
So I wasn't smart enough like you to start numbering podcasts. So I have no idea how many we have. I probably could figure it out, but it feels like it's been going on for about 5 years now. And what we did is we just started by using some of the audio from the videos that we were recording. And we realized, wow, this podcast thing is pretty interesting. People seem to be listening. So I started to record individual podcasts, but it was a marketing gentleman that we had here that worked in our office that suggested it. I'd never heard of podcasts when he mentioned it to me. And it's been great. We get about 4,500 listens a month. We try to put out a podcast a week, and they're very short. Most of them are 3 to 7 minutes long. Some are longer when we use audio from a presentation I may have done, but most are just really quick bullet points on a specific issue, legally related, on how to collect a debt, how to protect your lien rights, contract issues to be aware of, contract provisions to put in your contract provisions to take out of your contract. And I find that people like the shorter podcasts rather than the longer ones, only because, I mean, let's be frank. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about construction law. I mean, it's really not very riveting.
So tell everybody the name of your podcast and where they can go check it out. And,
sure.
and sign up. Don't forget to subscribe so that you get all the episodes.
It's called the Lien Zone Podcast. And if you go to thelienzonepodcast.com, lean is LIEN, thelienzonepodcast.com, you'll see all the episodes there, and you can subscribe from iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, all of the places where everyone normally listens to their podcasts.
Perfect. So everyone go over there and grab it. And also don't forget to be working on your core 4. And we're going to end with a couple questions here. One is, you've talked a lot about your dad, but I'd really be interested in knowing what's the very best advice you've ever gotten from anyone?
My wife would probably want me to make sure I mention something that she said, like always listen to her, or she's always right. But I think the best advice that I got from someone, again, it's going to be attributed to my father, being partners and his son, being partners for 20 years and being his son. We spend a lot of time together. And his advice is always forward. Just, you don't always need to keep moving forward. It doesn't need to be the best. You just always have to make sure that there's incremental progress in whatever it is you're doing. Sometimes the goal seems so far away that you get discouraged. Always just remember that if you could just do a little bit better, then you're making progress.
I think that's great. Great advice, especially for a Monday morning as we're here, as we're recording this. And as we will launch every podcast on our Construction Dream Team launches on Monday morning. So there you have that for this week. Just keep moving forward. You may have fires going everywhere, but just keep moving forward. It will work itself out if you keep working at it. We ask every guest to share a gift with all of us. This would be a resource that you have found to be very, very helpful for you. It could be a podcast, it could be a book, it could be really a movie, it could be anything that you think could be helpful to all of us. What you got for us?
It's something that I've been, so not only am I an attorney, but I'm a business owner. So I have to manage my team and keep many, many clients happy. And in what we do, it's sometimes hard to keep clients happy and manage their expectations. And I've been focusing a lot on operational transparency as a means to accomplish that. And there is a great article, it's about 15 pages long, that I've read and reread and read some more on operational transparency. And it's called The Labor Illusion: How Operational Transparency Increases Perceived Value by Ryan Buell and Michael Norton. It is in the Harvard Business School. They are from the Harvard Business School, and it was published on July 15th, 2011. So it's not new stuff. But the idea is that if you can kind of open the curtain a little bit or a lot, you can keep your clients and customers happier because they will understand the work associated with what you're doing, and they will value it more because they see the work.
Excellent. So we're going to work to get a link so that we can put that into the show notes as a gift from you to all of Construction Nation. So how can Construction Nation get a hold of you?
The best way to get a hold of me directly is an email. And my email is Alex, ALEX, at Barthet.com. B as in boy, ARTHET.com.
And we'll put that in the show notes too, so everyone will have that.
And we do, we post a lot on social media, on LinkedIn, on my profile on LinkedIn, and on Instagram at the Lean Zone, LIENZONE. And we try to post usually every day, several times a day, but every day we post about typically some construction related issue in South Florida, a construction article, and we post a lot of what you would call hashtag construction fail pictures, people on ladders in ways they shouldn't be. And people typically get a kick out of it. So we try to post one of those every day on our Instagram and LinkedIn page.
That sounds fun. And I know everyone does love those. So those things go viral all over the project, you know.
Right.
So what is your parting advice for us? Something that we could start doing today better in dealing with our legal matters?
So I would say if you have a lawyer that you know, like, and trust, invite him or her out to lunch just because. Get to know them better. If you don't have a lawyer, find one and tell him or her, I know that I'm probably going to need one sometime, so I figured I'd look for one now, and put that person on your team because invariably you will need them. It may not be this year, it may not be next year, but it's going to be at some point. And it's pretty rare actually that we have clients that come to us that say that, but it does happen every once in a while where someone comes to me and says, I don't have a case, I haven't been sued, I don't need anything, but I know that I will. So I just want to make sure that if I do, I can pick up the phone and call you, which is a great feeling as a lawyer, but as a business owner, you should definitely be doing that.
Sounds like great risk management practice.
Correct.
And also the knowledge you might have to help us prevent some issues that later on. Absolutely. So thank you so much for being with us and being a part of the Construction Dream Team and help us know how to create our dream team with our core four and have lunch once a year with those folks. And we will share this with everyone in the industry. And I know you're in South Florida, so anybody in South Florida, check it out. Go and hire your lawyer. Take your lawyer to lunch. It will be good. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Okay, Construction Nation. Remember, dream teams don't just happen. They are built one step at a time. You've learned some great things today from Alex. He's going to teach you how to have that core four and how to develop the relationships that you need to really have your dream team work optimally, even maybe in some challenging circumstances, which is what we all want to try to do. And remember, we're always trying to tap into that collective wisdom of the industry. Think about that for your core four. You have this collective wisdom of these four folks who are looking at a whole myriad of different businesses and projects and issues, and think about the wisdom you could get for them. So we know that we can accelerate our success by really listening to each other and learning from each other. And that's really the reason for this podcast. So remember, the faster that you can build your dream team, the faster you can really become that company, that project, that leader that you want to be, and have fun in the industry. I also want to make sure that you remember that every single Monday at 4 a.m., Construction Dream Team drops. And so please join me next week when I will interview another industry leader or expert about what they know so that you can know it and we can all be better. And so please join me again next week, so that we can just break that, stop that. We're going to edit that. So please join me next week when I will interview another person so you can create your construction dream team. Thanks so much for joining me. Thanks again, Alex.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Get your Core 4 going. Take care.